What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Sunday morning via the wonderful invention of the internet. In just a few minutes, you're going to join the rest of your small group on your Zoom calls. But first, I want to give you an introduction into our lesson, and then I'll give you a few announcements at the end so that you can be sure to remember those. So our lesson this morning, we're going to be in the book of Malachi. Malachi. Now, this book is perfect for what we're experiencing right now. What you're experiencing, what I'm experiencing. I think this is just a very well-timed lesson that we're going to have. And so I want to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of context about what's happening in this book. So Malachi lived about 100 years after the Israelites returned from exile in Babylon. And that's what we studied for the last few months, really. We've talked a lot about the Babylonian exile and the leading up to that, during, and then after. And his book was written to the Israelites who had been living in Jerusalem for some time now, right? They had been back from exile. Now they're living in Jerusalem. The temple was rebuilt. We saw that in Ezra and Nehemiah. Those are the last couple of lessons that we've had. But things are not really going well for the Israelites in Jerusalem. When the Israelites returned from exile back to Jerusalem, their hopes were really high. They weren't in exile anymore. Obviously, that's a good thing. But they were very, very eager about what was going to be next. Their walk with the Lord seemed to be very strong, and they had this whole list of things they were going to do better this time, as opposed to how their ancestors had been in the past. And this kind of reminds me of the camp high or the Memphis high that you get, right? You've seen this closeness and this nearness. You've seen God do some pretty incredible things, and now you're coming back with really high hopes, and everything's going to be great. Things are going to be different this time. I'm going to see victories and wins and successes this time. And that's not quite what happened. That's not what we're going to see in Malachi. The Israelites who came back from exile into Jerusalem, they proved to be just as unfaithful and just as disobedient as previous generations before them. And so they're not really in a good place. And we're going to get to see through this study this morning just how corrupt and just how not good these people are. And so this book is divided into a series of disputes. So generally the way that it would happen is God will make a claim, and then the people, the Israelites, would argue about what God was saying, and then God would correct them, or he would respond in some way. And so there's really 5 main disputes in this book. The first 2 disputes are about God exposing the people's corruption. And then the last 3 disputes is really God confronting their corruption. So the first 2 about God exposing the people's corruption, the last 3 about God confronting their corruption. And here's what I want you to see from all of this before you get into your more in-depth study, is the exile didn't really change anything in the hearts of the people. Their hearts were just as hard as ever towards God. And this is where I see this study this morning, this book specifically, applying to where we are right now, end of March 2020, in quarantine, right? We're not as bad off as the Israelites. Like, we're not in exile. I get that. But still, this stay-at-home quarantine feels like exile to a certain point. We can't meet with our friends in person. We can't meet with our faith community, our body of believers, our church family. We can't meet with other actual family. We can't meet with our leaders and mentors, small group leaders. We can't be physically in person with all of these people. And like I've said this in our devotionals, I've said this on Wednesday nights, and I'll say it again here. I feel like this is a season that God is very patiently and very graciously allowing us to go through. He's stripped away every excuse and every busyness and every task that we have and things that we would put above him in a place of idolatry. And we would just kind of say, okay, God, my relationship with you, I'll rely on that just being filled on Sunday morning when a small group leader does it for me, or on Wednesday night when Chris does it for me. And other than that, I really don't have anything I'm doing to discipline myself for godliness. And so he's stripping away all that stuff, and you are left with a tremendous amount of free time. And so now, what are you going to do with that free time? If left with every opportunity to deepen your relationship and your walk with the Lord, and you don't do it, then we're in a very similar place as the exiles coming back to Jerusalem with their hearts not changed at all from before, right? They're saying things are going to be different this time. Things are going to be better this time. I have high hopes this time. Same thing with us. Things are going to be different. I just spent a lot of time with the Lord over the course of this break, and things are going to be different. But are they really? What are you filling yourself with? Are you using your free time as an opportunity to deepen your relationship with the Lord through Scripture, through prayer, through fasting, through disciplining yourself for godliness? So maybe you've just been on cruise control in your relationship with God, just going through the motions. And this is God getting your attention. This pressing pause on everything else that exists in the world is Him getting your attention, my attention, Christians' attention all together, saying, hey, I want to do something big, but I can't with the spiritual infants that you are. Right? You need to be able to feed yourself and understand the depths and the meat of Scripture. And so I don't want you to be used to us doing everything for you. I want you to take ownership of your faith, and I want you to see kind of how God responds to people who came out of a season where He was trying to teach them something and they actually didn't learn anything at all. So Malachi is going to have a few things to say to you, just like he did to the Israelites. And I pray this morning that you will take time to dig in deep to the truths that God is trying to teach you. And so just a couple of announcements. Don't forget that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon, we have our lunchtime devotionals. We're in the book of James. We're going to be finishing out on Monday the end of chapter 1 of James. If you want to go back and look at some of the previous ones that we've done, they are on our YouTube channel. You can watch the first 3 devotionals that we did. Wednesday night, we still have Elevate, 6 o'clock. So come be a part of that lesson, be a part of the interaction. Those of you that were there, I thought it was absolutely incredible. So thanks for engaging with us through that. Stay tuned. I don't know if some of you knew, but we had a little Zoom hangout afterwards where we played a couple of games and they were a lot of fun. So hang out with us after on Zoom. I'll send you out a link for that. And then if you want to do one of our verse of the days or a Memphis testimony or just send a 30-second clip about what the Lord's teaching you right now, feel free to do that. Record yourself, send it to either myself or Blair, and we'd love to have that shared with the rest of our church family and social media following. So enjoy your small group this morning, guys. I love you.